Hello YouTubers. Hello species identity of volume slash S. Individual grouped in species identity of volume slash S. Invisible but still discernible. So well, we're gonna make theory, counter theory, and counter positions to force out roles formally and informally in collusion within as fact-cheaping nature styles that are in the way of evolution's fruits and gifts, which is native pure identity of relationship to itself that causes evolution's fruits and gifts means from nowhere. And where and how we are value as nature slash nature as value, and this as fact-cheaping nature. By a value, the value slash value progression system inseparable from all things. So the first position slash counterposition of the ancient gaming system of YouTuber Anthony Wall, also known as youtube.com/user/Romulus Wall. Here, you're going to watch the playlist and please subscribe. Look at those features under the YouTube videos. People miss that. And it's easy to subscribe to YouTube through Google. And you know, things become easier all the time. Boxing. I just remind. So this is boxing. The first lesson of boxing, it comes also with lesson 2 and 3. The first lesson is about how the first thing, keep your hands up, is also coupled with keep your chin tucked when you get close to the guy. When they or girl, you should see the women boxers they have today. It's like on average more talented than men. It's from what I've seen. Wow. I mean, boxing is an ancient science, but we don't have the ancients told properly because the other was entertained with the telling of everything, and a breaching method knew that this was going to be done. We're going to refer to this breaching method as a predicate explanatory system method. And you know, to have this quality of fact-cheaping nature, to make proper treatments of why and how areas are location. Well, all locations are tactically forsaken before anyone was living in them. And all involved with that, good and bad, even though real, discernible, there is more that no one lets discern, because no one lets simultaneously the subjects connected to make correlation per our fact-cheaping nature styles. So we have styles that pretend to be about short, concise, because they're involved with sequencers to identity theft frauds, roles with databases since before computers, since semi-ancient times when the ancient republic became criminally foreign influenced. That which was revealed by the identity of science, that is itself it is greater than infinity, and it, while being infinity, it is more finite than 3 identities of 0. Note 3. So we're going to use the boxing arts. Control your hearts. Boxing, it tells us things. So in other words, there are proofs. I'm going to take the history of it to counter positions, because then we're going to force out people that have been using fake care for and fake care against the history of boxing, how they are in collusion with as victims, for example, where and how victim predators were maintained by the predicate explanatory system method that each nation was really supposed to be about by now. But it was entrenched had all the locations, areas, states used remotely as fact sheet nature, as value/value progression nature, as names known, as identity. We have all kinds of identity thefts, frauds that investigations of that for uses of identities of the law that use that hundreds of nations at once. Now, when they fight about things that like wars, they have to argue as sides that are already in collusion with the really what led up to and effectively maintain self-value, because it maintains self-value. Fact sheet nature styles. We have military associated with prison. We have foreign military involved with them. With prisons, with the and on-off the state prison offices, on-off the state judicial branch offices, on-off the campuses of each age and nature. Since before our founding, there was a sophistication that was an archetypal organized crime method. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a police officer, I'm not criminal. This is what is actually recorded. So they make people make allegations against others, and they keep people on off campuses, victims, invested to be counters of it and defenses of that as fact sheet nature sophistication that can't defend itself and but value the same thing that hurts them, hurting everybody, and or pseudo helping everybody at the same time. Only criminal and ceaseless natures of positive treatment that are recorded to correlation nature as evidence. When you hear things even like Jim Crow laws, even like takes on them today, not one person has spoken on it right, that's evidence. And also evidence simultaneous to how they use methods switching names into branch, fabricating audio and video. How they do that because their roles with World Trade Center and with Washington, D.C., and with private companies like wires and investigators with tricks through time, and just fabricating audio and video. And time treatment's always too fast, too slow, as a fact treatment nature quality /S. All identities of courts, each modern nation. This is about the species identity of volume. And this is about that identity that is not so that identity that is more finite than three identities of zero and greater than infinity is simultaneously what is most delicate, what is more delicate than we could have complete control over individual groups and together, but one way. By using the actually science, this is about evolution, which actual science, the method of how you connect 5 identities of positive as value as nature / nature as value as volume. So this is volume science as a counter position, and we'll take counter. I mean, we'll make counter theories. This is not just theory. We're saying this is a position of myself, Anthony Wall, of this YouTube channel, of the device of Little Rap Guy and Friends, cartoon series, and cartoon movies, and in that the whole world is extorted. The whole world is counter extorted. And the counter extortion has them cultivating, everyone cultivating their own counter extortion too. And has Little Rap Guy and Friends cultivating the counter extortion of Hartford, of New York City, and of the neighboring suburbs and nations. So now this only feels like games because it's evolution science. But it is not games because these are also with evidences for my individual Hartford and campuses I didn't even go to, and others. It demonstrates this is an identity of the grounds method that is exploiting how we are value / value progression. So boxing is necessary, not just because you have to know how to counter. You have to learn what is unnatural And as fact-cheating nature, in other words, countering racism, calling it racism, is not how to counter the worst in criminal incompetence of all identities of the law, as ranges of opinions, as opinions in arrays that are different, but all fake difference. All rolls with that predicate auxiliary system method, that archetype of criminal enterprise. Some might call it the devil. Might want to call it the devil. We'll call that's what they're teaching in Little Rap Guy and Friends, which their world is modeled much like our own, and that's why they're not supposed to talk about the semi-nature, because in the cartoon series they're not sure about if there's a real value nature system or not. But they're not allowed to talk about that, because the more they talk about that, the more they have these dreams, and then they're with the real value nature system. So if it works out, so they're also making pantheism to use to fix, which since semi-ancient times, since before modern religions and latter semi-ancient times, and note how everyone had that left out, that which is actually reported to correlation. And so we're going to learn to defend the answers to questions of evolution, of which we can identity the ground locations are all parted from and to, and as identities of practicality they can't defend themselves and for it. People with logic, with no criminal foreign influence, who are going to use where and how the predicate auxiliary system method is recording having used other people. So it uses, by using the branches of government, other countries, all private and overt criminal enterprises at the same time, it keeps people need to hide the same finite active progressive lies to locate to all locations further and further, as all areas and states value, as all fact-cheating nature, positive truth treatments, styles, like for example, they were involved with all kinds of fabricating audio and video and hiding what they do afterwards through time against, and it makes them need to pretend they made mistakes and put innocent people in jail. The people they have in jail, they had them involved with worse crimes, and they had the ones hurt worse than they should have been, and they left out how they have this, what I'm trying to talk to you about, what is actually recorded on off campus of each age and nature. So like for example, there's a Dillon family, never had a verbal conversation with them. They make people, through time, they had people make confessions to me, then they put their hand up. For example, that's how he's involved for one of the ways with Anna Dillon. And real estate companies reported, confessed, demonstrated, involved with prosecutors and judges that are involved also with other police forms. Former director of the FBI, federal criminal court defendants of his are involved. In other words, too, I never had a conversation with Mr. Abruzzi. He came up to have me do a maze, then he walked away. It was the only conversation with him. That was a 5th grade teacher I had. In other words, and that kid, I never saw him around campus before that and after that, which is also involved with a former Mayor Gold, which I never had a conversation with either. And his daughter is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by other people, by herself, involved with predicate acts with kids, sequence shifts roles, like a wrongdoing with roles, but with roles with people involved with predicate acts against me and against everyone, even who they helped, per their roles with Washington, D.C. and World Trade Center. And so, and then when I was in middle school, we'll treat that separately because those are the people who were involved that I never even saw on campus one time. And with the people involved now with the same campus, with the principal child defenders campus since before that, there was more. That, I know because they had the confessions with the same guy with my neighbor. In the past ones, also involved with Trinity College when there was an untimely death reported on Trinity College. They also attached me to fake writing a letter there. These are also people that told girls from New York and ones I don't know. You know, they involved them with Eric Oliveri and Joshua. Eric Oliveri was put in a class that, you know, involved with FBI and with federal criminals before they got caught with fact-cheating nature-oriented, wire crime, mail crime, child abuses, educational roles with that which is kept overtly / insidiously criminally foreign influenced, and through motivations, nature's needs, interests known, but bound, all gathered around by a predicate acts delivery system method. So we're going to make a countering method as a species identity of volume. Having forgiveness, because you're going to see, otherwise the branches are, in other words, their roles with everything good and happened that has locations, how they've been stacking audio and video into databases into branch to hide this, how other nations have been keeping this, the outcome, /S. Otherwise, they get punished where they have no means to counter things that have to be, no matter what, countered, like what leads up to wars. See, people leave out the economic prostrations. That's what the president's trying to say about it could kill more people than the coronavirus. See, we have to deal with what is simultaneous. If we admit that, that nature, and follow mandated law, these are the hospital locations involved with the child campuses, involved with the adult campuses, involved with the courts and their family members and political families, and the locations next to it, for the crime methods that are completely fact-cheating nature-oriented, but they are long having been extended way worse since before our founding parents were even born here. This was extended first through the Native Americans, who they knew would have to blame, who would have to react as fact-cheating nature formally to the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. So they would have to be not only divided and conquered. So we have to have this caveman logic pulled out from the shadows of the vile branches and of the vile private tie to them. And we have to show that vile of the other nations where and how everyone's, you know, left out and is only posed to criminal and seditious natures of theater positive. See, this science, where and how you have to separate subjects. This science never. In other words, this does it making qualifications and with subjects, because you have to bring simultaneously subjects. See, they don't let some subjects be addressed simultaneously as subject. It's all right if you have to do that for time, but don't leave out that which is simultaneously, because that's correlation, where all the subjects are simultaneously valued. Now, see what? So they have they have movements that are really for. See, they're really against the north end of Hartford, for example, which is way easier to fix than New York City, which hundreds of nations at once have a pathology of infrastructure here and there. That was forced by the predicate acts delivery system method since before our founding parents were born. And this is better than what they set up as the trap for our fact-cheating nature, for our correlation nature, in what that which was sustained, that which is the predicate acts delivery system method. So we're going to learn counter. We're going to learn where peace and where war, where what is strong and delicate, are both for complete possession of one identity that is more finite than three identities of zero, and it is greater than infinity, while as then the smallest thing, boxing. So we'll examine how and why the definite article and the indefinite article are referred to as such. This is about where and how space / existence are a semi-nature / S relationship to their complete identities, self-generation, one identity of volume, inseparable from all others. With that, its identity of volume is identity of relationship to itself, distinct from all others, while as them, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, individually, finite, more, grouped, active, more, and species, complete, more, but still as temporary positive, but still every temporary positive is simultaneously, increasingly, more and more positive or negative in relation to its system. And so boxing. Sing. So this is what we're going to say. We're going to take our position that is more probable that the ancients, they came together, they revealed martial arts and boxing together. And that's part of it. Or the box in the sing. And so we'll examine proofs of this. There are proofs that whatever real motivations came up with the squared circle, that phrase. This is about algebraic consciousness / consciousness algebraic. This is about where and how. Bach sings as circles too, but distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, which is invisible but still discernible, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. And that's value because of distinct, and also observation of that reveals a further distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneously two other further identities of sequence / simultaneous nature. Two and as one identity of value / value progression, inseparable from all parts of itself. Therefore, we have manifest not only the cell nucleus, the cell body, and the cell wall, observable through a microscope, plant cells. I'm going to assume that animal cells are the same because the cells connect and we have a body formed. So there are also two identities of sequence / simultaneous nature with that. And the air and the water and how they're coming up and everything like that. It's related to the phenomenon of how even though a complete identity of volume won't mix with the other two complete identities of volume won't mix with the other three. They are individually grouped and together. This is the same way the notes work the way they do. Individually grouped and together, no matter what instrument you're playing. The letters of the English alphabet were revealed with this timeless relationship to themselves that is increasing till, so it is invisible but still discernible. It is how everything, Genesis is preservation of ancient revelations for the process method of science / S from before sciences were criminally foreign influenced in semi-ancient times. And that being part of the subject, part of the subjects of modern religions that came in latter semi-ancient times about this counterpositions. Now the original nature science that was going by how we are and why we are individual grouped and together actually in demonstration of this invisible identity of value progression. So ancients would demonstrate that we are to, and our founders would tell us. We're supposed to use correlation. Boxing will train you. And also boxing, even though this is mental, even though this is business too, because all the states, there's a race. Whichever one sets up, you have the right to do it. You take my idea, set it up, and you don't get in trouble. You just keep the money for you guys figure out. I mean, then you guys can talk about it, and your conjunction to where you guys are going to use it. You're going to hold it until you agree, which is you're going to agree because we're using evolution science. We're going to make everything so small compared to our means, more than enough to afford. So we have to address criminally foreign influence, every single identity of the ground, person, as a victim, no matter what position you are, distinctly not individually grouped and together. All states, locations, areas of every modern nation. This is what is actually recorded. There are whole revelations in the opinions of people. So, but you have to, in other words, in the convictions and in the opinions of people to science, with this platform actually recorded under our feet, under the feet of our founders, forced over their sophistication that they are capable of being. Know how slavery was in the North and in the South, not per them, but per predicate delivery system method. If they tried to speak up about them, the laws were such that that was the nervous system of it. It would come after them. That's what made the Native Americans. It didn't just divide and conquer them. It divided them and invested them to divisions. Invested them to qualities and fact-checking styles like colonists A through Z that need to react to the real causes of negative value nature progressions, action natures upon them. But for all kinds of time reasons and natural reasons, no one could fathom means to counter this unnatural archetypal criminal enterprises predicate acts delivery system method, where and how it had and has complete possession of the sophistication of every modern nation, of every location, area, and state of it, of standing premises treatment, sequence treatments, finite, active, and progressive value/value progressions treatments, where we are quality of diffusion, and identity treatments, where and how we are individually grouped and together to discern how this identity of volume/S has a semi-nature relationship to that identity, that inventions work or not in relationship to it. They are further positive or not in relationship to it. This is volume science. So volume theories with physical delusions that they use to cultivate and to maintain self-cultivated, self-valued, self-cultivated, and that all that exploited by a predicate acts delivery system method that propagated fact-checking nature styles on off campuses in collusion with a vertical and horizontal, real organized crime method, bonding a whole bunch of other natures of motivations, natures, easy interests for evil, but not the real, but not all of it. See, worse of it is how hiding that causes lie progressions right back to all locations, which the original predicate acts delivery system is in complete possession of. I dare someone to, pick one name and sequence. They switch sequences into branch 2 because of their roles with this. They have every identity of the law as victims, but as victim predators. And they have overt predators because this is how this was through time. We'll examine how people had insights into Central Connecticut State University, into Weathersfield interbranch, all along routes. How it has conjunctions to intercampuses like Trinity College, Central Connecticut State University, on-off locations like Robert Luskin's lawyer. Robert Luskin was former standing chairperson on Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organization Act, former director of the FBI. This is since before James Comey recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved also with the wire crime methods with the kids that they connected. So they make the different campuses and private schools with fact-cheating nature collusion, with people fabricating audio and video into databases, stealing people's identities, identity theft, frauds, roles, keeping all locations used to hide lie progressions and illusions increasingly needed hid by the identities of each branch individually grouped in together because of nature demonstrates negative value nature progressions, acts of nature, and this is what the predicate acts delivery system method knew that it could exploit. So when I say self-value and all those things, I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings or something like that. And then people see perception feelings, they start talking about feelings like it's one thing, instead of having these 5 identities of sequence/simultaneous nature. In other words, they want to have a nonsense conversation. And they want to defend, because of victim predator, all styles that came through schools, that can only value the contrast of forsaken schools and of forsaken causes of that bound, real, but not by what is keeping that and was keeping that, and it kept it against each individual associated with it. Each individual associated with every single identity of the ground location, every single identity of difference. They're going to steal for you because they need correlation nature with their narratives on and off campuses, pretending opinions and convictions, and with physical delusions, intersciences. See, we're supposed to have experts to overcome such. They've been using experts in collusion with fact-cheating nature phenomena that were being and having been exploited by the interbranch involved with the campuses from their locations remotely, and where and how that whole thing is used remotely, leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context /s and since. So the online big companies, they admit to being influenced by, they don't realize they admit, but they admit to being influenced by the agency's roles, fabricating audio and video, hiding lie progressions tied to that, by influencing people to type things on Facebook, illusions, like implying sequence relationships, implying real relationships between people. These are also ones involved leading up to and in the World Trade Center attack context /s, with other nations criminally involved with them, with the on-off campuses, on-off Weathersfield town offices, on-off intermilitary, everyone uses of other people's names, everyone speaking through others, confessions. So, now these are also people involved with uses of religious locations. Now you also have to deal. So in other words, we have to be able to talk about the people we come into contact with and don't, who pretend they come into contact with us. So when I'm just saying this about identity thefts and frauds, slavery with the color with the law. It is not by accident they left out and leave out. It's way worse than divide and conquer consciously, while pretending other, reaching screen, worse. In other words, when they bring up how they put those crazy laws, and that's sustained. That's fact-cheating nature sustained. Defenses of positive and negative truth. Physical delusions as styles that were propagated and that were methodically, consciously maintained self-value. Cultivated victims maintain self-value, self-cultivated, being and having been propagated to roles with the uses of criminally foreign influence premises treatment, sequence treatments, finite, active, and progressive fact treatments, truth treatments, identity treatments that were in collusion with the predicate acts delivery system method leveraged against our founding parents that they wanted and need us to have told by now. Fake branches bow and fall. Build wall, reveal the seed. So there are people associated with remote uses of the parties, of both political parties, of each branch of government individually grouped in together, roles with that predicate acts delivery system method that is a whole bunch of methods and therefore styles of criminal and seditious nature to all identity ground locations. And we'll examine how next to the schools are involved with all kinds of medical men and women, inclusion against all boys and girls, and with the people with the wire crime acts and methods, and with the sequence shifts, and how they use the abuses of boys and girls they single out individually, grouped, and all together. You know, we have a lot of fake things, vaccines. So Weathersfield schools recorded, confessed, demonstrated with Weathersfield police to other police forms, and with other people tied to them, are involved with them with interbranch predicate acts on my street through time. Investigations of that being used to hide lie progressions, being used to hide their roles, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with connected predicate acts at the various natures of my school and with the locations next to them. These aren't just words. These are actual specific evidences. Now, the men and women involved with this interbranch, it is truth that someone could take anything as an evidence, like an expert. See, but they've been exploiting such. Like, for example, when obviously there are criminally foreign influence evidences treatments and roles with that predicate acts delivery system method, that breaching method, if you want to call it that. If you don't want to admit that there was a breaching method behind those laws, then you have physical delusions. See, but we have those physical delusions as our experts' roles with them, while they are roles with the interbranch personally and family-wise, involved with vertical and horizontal organized crime acts of mixed natures, but also with one originally still way worse than that from those locations, consolidating further and further collusion with its lie regressions through all these others to all locations further. So the motivations and stuff like that, all those words, all values are used with criminal foreign influence and with physical delusions and with sequence shifting natures. Identity theft frauds roles, even if through counter. All opinions. That's why evolution is not revealed. So they pretend inclusion. They pretend to be about inclusion, and they involve people with investigations, investigators, and vetting identities and families associated with that, where they're using that and have been using that to hide lies affected by originally still the criminally foreign influenced, all locations, areas, states, every position of sophistication. And that's in collusion with all the people, like those protesters attacking the police station. That's an overt breaching method. It's simultaneously insidious, but we're not even allowed to speak about the overt, and we're not allowed to speak about the insidious by people pretending to be about free speech. For example, by pretending to be, they're using that as a device for fact-cheating nature, for evidence racketeering roles. There are police simultaneously recording, pretending to be against, pretending not to understand people that they never had conversations with about things associated with Sandy Hook. They have their own family members involved with the interbranch through time. Washington, D.C., World Trade Center, intercampuses of each age and nature, intercities, way worse than just interstates and internation. That keeps them, no one safe. That keeps negative value nature, progressions, acts, natures, not only blamed on other things other than themselves, but that valued having been, that valued having, all that having needed to hide the same sequence shifts, finite, active, progressive, identity theft rules. So we have actual facts that are being prevented outside of courts, because courts and private people tied to them, like people of psychology, they have been fabricating audio and video in courts. They have been spreading lies and rumors and fake conversations with people formally and behind their backs or through kids of each age and nature, through their parents. They're attaching their own kids to illusions not legitimate of the intermilitary and of the interbranch involved with the overt criminal enterprises, the witness protection program, and its stewards and people associated with the body dumping spot, like a Fianza family, also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with Cromwell locations in a Cromwell mayor and police forms on off a bar with prosecutors and judges involved with them. Also, many from New Britain Superior Court involved with identity theft, frauds, evidence racketeering natures, with locations through time that also have that pattern of themselves involved with predicate acts on and off Fox Connecticut News, on and off WSB and WFSB, and on and off the buildings and locations next to it. And their narratives are also evidences, but they're forging and switching names. For example, they have a Sullivan family, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated further involved with abuses of kids on my street and uses of a family member they recorded, that family that they also have recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by others associated with them, like people associated with forensics locations involved with the same house, with a Phil Palolo and 2 Mendez police fabricating audio and video rolls, interbranch locations, Weathersfield Police Department, pretend they had conversations with me since I was a kid. They also have the method of having people say other people's names into everyone's minds. So that people that don't know it, strangers and stuff like that, because they did, like, in other words, leading up to the World Trade Center attack. These are strangers that made those confessions to me. And when what is actually recorded, you're going to see investigators, investigations of that, where our collusion with a whole bunch of natures of way worse than just child abuses. And these are also people simultaneously having been involved with way worse than just elderly abuses. Now these are the courts and police forms associated with those locations, and with these other natures of abuses, and also how they have sexual roles with the sexual crimes and the counters to it in collusion. Like, for example, and with lawyers, how they have types of lawyers recorded with physical delusions, preventing mandated law, as collusion with crime methods of prosecutors and judges that is involved with what I'm asking you to respond for them. Picking one name in sequence, which is their uses of investigators to pretend they perceive things, to fabricate audio and video, because of how long they've had to hide live progressions. Been related to a whole bunch of juxtaposed things, related to uses of that method, of those methods in collusion with where and how. They have types of experts respond to types of things, and they have those experts need to hide the same finite uses of those identity grounds by themselves and their family members, everyone, people next to everyone. Not by accident, for a method. That was sophistication here since before them. So they want to have people have qualities of conversations that like debates about sophistication, that if you have that, you can't defend yourself from what exploits all locations, areas, and states. You can't, in other words, they're forging names, switching names, fabricating audio video with private also, and with overt criminal enterprises, and with the witness protection program. You'll note that the online also confirmed from the stranger, complete stranger, made all these confessions tied to a Billy Grasso and his roles with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, with the Dillon family, also involved with my new and past neighbors with untimely deaths and predicate acts on my street that were timed also in conjunction with insidious things and overtly sick things like untimely death on the campus of Trinity College, that they also involved my past neighbors. And I love, I love my past neighbor. I love everybody. I don't care what anyone does, when with names. I want, I like women. There's no exceptions. I never been gay. I don't want to be gay. But even gay people, in other words, you guys, these groups are involved with the families, involved with the child abuse. And they are recorded how having been using that as weapons too. as rules with the names forging and switching on and off Trinity College and on and off Central Connecticut State University. Well, I'm not going after the identities of the college. I'm going after the individuals forging names, switching names, and roles with the predicate acts on and off those campus connected for the illusions that are being used for worse than extortion of me and of everyone, because these are the evidences I need to show what was going on with the people from my town who were involved with predicate acts against me. Also against, bad things against Johnny Duke. But I can't ask him about that stuff, and he wouldn't remember. So they make you have to say bad things about people. In other words, there are people associated with on and off the Department of Homeland Security. Since before that was there, that location is involved with people with New Britain, Central Connecticut State University, involved with courts, judges, and prosecutors involved with